So I've been seeing a lot of comments in my comment section where you'd expect to see comments about tanking anxiety or tanxiety. And honestly, it's valid. It's a valid concern. Honestly, I feel like healer anxiety should be a stronger concern than tanxiety, but surprisingly, it's leading the pack. And that's not the most surprising thing, I guess. I just feel like healers have a harder job, but maybe that's just coming from somebody who's experienced and knowing why healer would be scarier as a new player. Doesn't matter. We're here to talk about tanxiety and how we're going to fix that. Because if there's one thing you should know before we even get into this video, I think he's not as scary as you think. Let me explain. So before we get started on this video, I just crossed the 100 followers threshold from my video 2 weeks ago, link up above. I couldn't have done that without you guys all engaging and commenting. So whether you subscribed, whether you're just a long-time viewer, although hitting that subscribe button would help a ton, please know that I'm super grateful. I'm very, very grateful because I really want to, be here and be helpful to everybody. And I love the 14 community and I love 14 in general. Now then, to the topic at hand. So that term I've affectionately coined as tanxiety. I don't think I've heard that before. If I have, that's fine. You can let me know in the comments that it's already an existing term. It's fine. Is a very common concern. And I am under the impression that anybody who's considering tanking is the most worried about letting their party members die. I mentioned earlier that healers have the bigger concern there because if they let the tank die, then everybody dies. If a tank lets a person die, but there are a lot of fair reasons to be concerned about being a tank, right? And mistakes that you could make. Maintaining aggression, aggro, or enmity. Enmity is the term in game, and making sure that none of the mobs are attacking your party members. Leading the pack, which is going to involve kind of knowing where you're going, and that might come off as very scary if you're stepping into a dungeon you've never stepped into before. Letting your party members die, or causing a wipe, or dying yourself. That's three things, all kind of wrapped into one. Knowing how to use damage mitigation as a tank, because the core difference between a DPS and a tank is damage mitigation. Aggro as well, but aggro is easier than you think. Let's jump into that. Aggro is what a lot of people call it. I think that's a term imported from other MMOs. Enmity is the in-game term. Just know they're the same thing. Aggro, or enmity, is fairly easily maintained in Final Fantasy XIV. It really doesn't require a ton of effort at this time. Every tank has what's collectively called as tank stance. And what this is you push this button, some part of your job gauge lights up, and you get easy aggro. How does this work? You turn it on, all of your attacks just generate more aggro or enmity than anybody else's can, because you have that button that turns that on. Besides that, your range attack also gets bonus enmity. If you're using AoEs, you will always automatically generate more enmity on everything you're hitting than any allies are ever going to be able to do. Enmity is the easiest thing to maintain as long as you're hitting the enemies at least once. I will tell you right now that 9 times out of 10 in a dungeon specifically, I will walk up to a mob right before I hit it. I'll start sprinting. I'll explain that. Use an AoE to hit as many of them as I can. If I missed it, I will keep going. If I missed one, I'll throw a range attack back at it to make sure I pick it up. If I missed a couple, I'll let them draw to me, and then I'll hit them a second time before I continue my sprint. And then I'll just throw AoEs back at whatever random one that I'm targeting while I'm looking forward to the next one, the next pack to go up and AoE again and pick up again. Lather repeat until we get to the wall. That's if you're wall-to-wall polling. If you don't feel comfortable doing that with that, that's okay too. Check out my dungeon speed video if you're curious about that. But wall-to-wall is typically what veteran players will do, and that is something that I do. But there's nothing wrong with not doing that. That's the important thing. As a Gunbreaker main, I can tell you that my method of AoE throwing attacks back is perfectly sufficient for walking through a dungeon. It is not a challenge, because having tank stance means that I will generate more enmity every single time. So once the pull has stopped, all of the enemies that I have been lightly pulling will come gather onto me, and I will just AoE them or AoE combo them until they're all dead. If I have ranged DPSs, chances are pretty good by the time the pull stops, the enemies will be half dead. Or more if I have 2 ranged DPSs. If I have melee DPSs, there's probably going to be a little bit more work involved because melees don't have the AoE ranged flexibility that ranged attackers do. But again, it's the same concept. Then we stop and we kill the pull all there. No big deal. When you get to a boss, assuming you have tank stance on, there's not a reality where as long as you are attacking the boss with really any of your attacks, but you're single target typically at this point, that the boss is going to wander off and attack somebody else, unless the boss has mechanics that are meant to do that. And I'll quickly touch on this. On the party list, there are letters and numbers. These indicate who has the highest level of enmity or aggro. The person with the big A is the top person in aggro. Occasionally, that A will move to somebody else, and assuming you're doing your role as a tank, you will see a 1. That means you are still top of enmity order, but the boss has decided to go attack somebody else. That doesn't mean you messed up. That means the boss does not care what you think, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just gotta let the mechanic ride out and make sure that you stay at that number 1 until it becomes an A again, and you've done your job. And if anybody dies while you have the A or the 1, that's probably because they messed up, so don't take that to heart. So big takeaway here, enmity generation, easy. That is the easiest part of tanking. Turn on your tank stance, press your button. Make sure you've touched everything one time, they're yours for the taking. So the point to be made here is that I'm very, very confident that I'm not gonna lose enmity, even if I'm not constantly attacking things in one place. I can confidently hit things once, maybe twice, keep going, and I'm not gonna have an issue, because that's how strong tank stance is in the current iteration of the game. If enmity is one of these symptoms of your Tanxiety, perish the thought. You have nothing to worry about in this regard. So we talk about the next thing, which is leading the pack, especially in unfamiliar dungeons. Any dungeons really, because unless you've memorized the map, you're probably gonna have some semblance of, I guess, lack of confidence, which you'll get over time. But let's use new dungeons, a dungeon you've never been into before as the example here. This is probably one of the easiest symptoms of Tanxiety to solve. And you're gonna laugh because this is gonna sound silly, but all you have to do is open your map. Even if you're new to the dungeon, enough of the next part of the map will appear once you've crossed the line to know where to go. If you have your map open, and I don't mean your mini map, you need your map open, you'll be able to see the routes to take and the dead ends that you should avoid. As long as you have your map open, I promise you, everything will be a-okay. That is one of those concerns that is fair when you don't know any better, but is a really, really, really easy challenge to solve. So, 2 symptoms of Tanxiety solved. So we can already jump to the third thing, letting your party members die or causing a wipe. It's very, very important that I stress this to you now. If you're watching this as a new tank, if you're watching this as somebody who's been playing for a while, doesn't matter. It is okay to wipe. It is more than okay to wipe. It is just part of the game. You're not gonna get a game over. You're not gonna lose your loot. You just go back to the checkpoint, come back to it again, maybe even have less mobs. Obviously, big dreams. You want to be able to just run it through without having to wipe and feel good about that. But it is okay to wipe. It's not going to hurt anybody. Most players don't even necessarily care. At best, they'll offer tips. There are fringe cases where players are assholes, but that's not common, especially if you're communicating where your needs are at, which I have mentioned in previous videos. Communication is going to be the key thing. If you tell people at the beginning, I'm new to tanking, I'm new to this, I'm not confident, please be patient with me, people will do it. But you have to tell them that. And of course, in the inverse, if you're a veteran and you see that somebody's struggling, use your experience, use your knowledge of being able to read the room and kind of work with them. But wiping is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Nobody's going to be mad at you for it. It is just something that happens in due course. And if somebody does happen to get mad at you, if you do run into that fringe case, let that roll off. That is not the majority, I assure you. And if you're worried about it, if you need to, if you don't want to go through people who are going to stress you out, find a community and make friends to go with. You're more than welcome to join our community, the AzureRogues, and we have our Discord that you can reach out to if you're a free trial member, or you can join the free company if you'd like. And there's plenty of us who are more than happy to help you go through it, get your techniques smoothed out, offer tips. So don't hesitate to reach out if you need that assistance. With the knowledge that it's okay to wipe in mind, I want to stress something additional here. As a new player or somebody who's afraid of messing up, because that's not just a new player issue, it could be an anxiety issue. It could just be a comfort issue, whatever the case may be. Learning where your limit is at is the first step. And you cannot learn your limits if you do not attempt to push up to them. And if you hit your limit, if your limit is you pulled too many things, you don't have mitigation rotation comfortable yet, and things go south, that's okay. You know your limit, you know where to practice at. If you're always doing duty support and playing it safe because you're nervous, you're never going to figure out what that is. And then when you do get into content with other players, it is going to be a lot more difficult to acclimate. Limit breaking. You want to push yourself to the limit. Wipe because wiping's okay. Die because dying's okay. Come back, try it again. If you go through a full pull and you wipe at the end of the pull and you've killed 3 or 4 mobs, you go through the whole same pull again with 3 or 4 mobs less, it's gonna feel less hard than it did the first time, and you'll have tested and pushed your limit to get to that next step and really get a better grasp and understanding of how to really go about it. Make sense? Don't be afraid to push your limits. And as is something that I want to say, this isn't 14 specific advice, right? This is applicable to your daily life too. It is okay to make mistakes. It is okay for things to go wrong. We are humans. Humans are not infallible. Whether that be in game or out of game, you'll never be able to improve if you don't make mistakes. And the key thing to improvement is to learning from those mistakes. Try anything once, don't make the same mistake twice. And you will see yourself improving bit by bit until you have reached the goal that you wish to reach. Whether that be something serious in real life-y or more serious like overcoming your anxiety. Again, as long as you're communicating, people will be understanding. So that is now 3 symptoms of Tanxiety wiped out. I believe now is going to be the biggest one though. Let's talk about mitigations. So mitigation, damage mitigation, MITs as they are commonly called. There are quite a few of them. Each tank has shared ones, and each tank has their own, but there is a ton of overlap. I'm gonna break this into 4 types. There are core mitigations, buddy MITs, or homie MITs, both terms I use, team MITs, or party MITs, and there are uncommon MITs, and I'll explain what those are. But let's start with the core MITs. Each tank has 3 core MITs. One from the tank role, Rampart, everybody has Rampart, and 2 additional MITs that are unique to their class that have ever slightly different functions, but in terms of your gameplay and your mitigation rotation, it's not gonna make a huge difference, really. In addition to these 3 core MITs, you will get what I like to call a baby MIT. This baby MIT is usually a really short cooldown. All the other MITs have like anywhere from a minute to a minute and a half. Baby MITs are a cooldown of 25 seconds tops. They come up fairly frequently and often have secondary effects. It depends on which class you are. Don't need to get into the details there, but baby MITs are short. When you're doing a mitigation rotation, what you'll often do is switch to one of your regular MITs, use a baby MIT, switch to the next MIT, use a baby MIT, and by the time you've gone through all of them, your first mitigation, which will often be Rampart, will be back off of cooldown. You don't get all of your mitigations early, like most of these come long term. I think most baby MITs don't come until mid to late 60s, so don't worry too much about that. Just kind of know that that's the idea. It kind of varies from class to class on when you get certain abilities, so just keep that in mind. One big important thing about your core mitigations is that you don't want to use them simultaneously. They are percentage increases on your defense. So if you stack them up, you will get less and less value out of them. If you must double MIT, you will stack a baby MIT with a core MIT, but you will never stack 2 core MITs because you will just end up losing out on mitigation. There are exceptions to this, but these are the kinds of exceptions you don't have to think about unless you're all the way at the end game. So that can be a different conversation for a different time. So moving on to team MITs, there is usually at least 2. One shared one, which is called Reprisal or Rep. Every tank has Reprisal. This mitigation is unique in that instead of giving you more defense, it makes the enemies deal less damage. The most common use case of this is in raids, where you will reduce the damage that the boss is doing when it's doing damage to everybody. However, it is also a very good mitigation tool when you're pulling large groups of mobs in dungeons for 2 reasons. 1, it will make all of the mobs do less damage. 2, because it is not giving you more defense, you can stack it safely. If it reduces the damage that things are doing and you are reducing the damage that is coming to you, those 2 percentages don't overlap with each other and cause a diminishing return. Reprisal can be used pretty much with any other mitigation in a situation where you're like, oh, I gotta really deal with this now. So that is the one important thing about Reprisal. Each class also has a team MIT. I think Paladin has 2 team MITs, and it's usually like it gives a small percentage to everybody of some kind to help you deal with damage. Again, often used for raid-wide damage. Not as common with dungeon pulls, but it doesn't mean it can't be used there if you need that little bit of extra. Buddy mitts are a bit of a more advanced thing, so I'm not going to get into these in too much detail here, but they're exactly what they sound like. You use them to give an ally extra mitigation. Typically use these in boss fights or in trials, or when you get to a skill level that you can see somebody else about to get hit by something that they shouldn't be because they're standing in the wrong place or whatever the case may be, you can throw a buddy mitt onto them to help protect them. That's advanced stuff, so you don't need to worry about that in detail. Just wanted to make sure I touched on a type of mitigation. So that other category I mentioned, there are 3 mitigations in the other category. 2 will make sense, 1 will surprise you. The first one is arm's length. Arm's length is a mitigation that every class has unless they are a magical range DPS. Arm's length will slow down the skill speed of enemies, meaning they will hit you less frequently over a course of time. It's a great mitt for that. It is typically used in content for knockback immunity, KBI, but it can be used as a very strong mitigation tool when you're pulling. The second one is what's called your invuln, or invulnerability ability. Invulns, every tank has one, and it basically makes it so you can't die for a fixed period of time. Each one has a varied effect, but the core thing is if you're in an oh shit moment, it is your oh shit button. However, while it is commonly reserved for those moments, that does not mean it cannot be used as part of your mitigation rotation in situations where you feel the need or where you can anticipate it. I've mentioned a pull that's in Shadowbringers called Mount Gulg, and this is the longest pull with the least amount of walls at the very beginning. If you pull this whole thing, it is very, very doable. It is very, very hard. You have to mitigate well. You have to use your kitchen sink of mitts, as people are fond to say. And part of using those mitts in order to get through this massive pull is using your invulnerability as a mitigation. That's an extreme example, but it can be used anywhere. It is not reserved for oh shit moments, but it can be if you would like that extra security. I tend to reserve it for oh shit moments because roulettes and matchmaking are a mixed bag. But if I didn't hit my invuln button and I died, that's my fault. I messed up because I could have saved myself for longer if I had pressed my invulnerability. So the third one, and this is the interesting one, is sprint. Why sprint? Sprint is not a mitigation. Does not reduce the amount of damage I take. It does not make them do less damage, or does it? The reason that I will always classify sprint as a mitigation is because if you are not sprinting, things can hit you while you're on the run. If you can get hit while you're on the run, you're taking damage. If you use one of your mitigations during the pull, then it may take longer for you to get that mitigation back when you need it most, or on the subsequent pulls. If you are sprinting, you are moving faster than all of the mobs. And if you are moving faster than them, unless they have ranged attacks, you will not be hit. If you are not getting hit, you are not taking damage. Therefore, it is a damage reduction and it is a mitigation. You should always be using sprint as part of your mitigation rotation. I mentioned earlier, popping sprint always needs to be done right before the pull. The reason for that is if you sprint while out of combat, you will get a 20-second sprint. If you sprint while you are in combat, you will get a 10-second sprint. You want twice the time. So right before you hit the monster or the monster looks at you, you sprint. 20 seconds of extra mitigation that you just have before you need to really worry too terribly much. Sometimes you might need to use your baby mitt in addition to that because some mobs are just ranged and can wreck you while you're on the move. And that's okay too. But sprint will help a ton in avoiding this. I'm gonna give kind of a loose demonstration here as well so that you can see what I mean in action. Oh hey, it's me from the future. I just wanted to interject real quick while I was thinking, because I thought about this during my editing. For all of my videos between now and Evercold, I don't intend to do much in terms of gameplay teaching. And the reason for that is if I teach you those skills now, they're going to be obsolete in 6-7 months, right? 5-6 months, I guess. So I don't intend to do a lot of gameplay demonstrations in my videos. Once Evercold comes out, I'll be relooking at that practice, but for now, I just don't think it makes sense. It'll make the videos age like cottage cheese, and it won't be beneficial after a certain point. And I'd like for the videos that I make to remain beneficial in some capacity as long as possible. You know what I mean? So that's it. It's nice to see you on a Saturday. Video comes out tomorrow. I really got to finish this. Bye. Okay, so we're gonna go through this pull. I'm going to preface this with the fact that I will probably not survive this pull. The big reason that I don't recommend using duty support for long-term play is because there's a lot of things you're not gonna learn unless you experience it with players. Two reasons for that. One, duty support doesn't act the way a player would. And two, duty support NPCs until I think Shadowbringers, if you look up at my class, at my party list, they don't have job stones. And this matters because if they don't have job stones, they're missing a ton of abilities. So if I pull this wall to wall, which is exactly what I'm gonna do, they won't be able to heal me because they don't have enough buttons. They don't have enough skills to keep up with it. I can mitigate that to some extent because I'm a tank, I mitigate, but it's probably not gonna be enough to help me survive the whole thing unless I don't use my tank stance and let them take some hits for me. We're gonna start by using our tank stance. I'm gonna start heading towards this pole, but I'm gonna sprint first. It's important to sprint before the first thing aggroes you, okay? Let's do it. So I start the sprint. Hit the first enemy, second enemy. These enemies are spread out, so I'm single targeting them. Third, fourth. After this corner, I already know they're close enough together that I can pick them up with an AoE, so I'm gonna do that. And now I have all of the enemies and they're all behind me. The Scion Conjurer is not coming, so I might be cooked. We're gonna go as far as we can. So I'm already dead. All right. I'm gonna invuln here just for the sake of getting through this explanation. There's the Conjurer. I have 3 seconds left on invuln and then I need to mit. So I'm gonna use Rampart. That's not gonna be enough. He's trying. He just can't. It's tough to go through this explanation this way because the Conjurer can't keep up. This is the #1 reason why I will always dissuade you from using duty support long term, because the AI doesn't have the capacity to keep up with the way players play. So we're gonna go through this again, but a little differently. If you saw, sprint was at 20 seconds when I did it before the pull. If you wait until after something has aggroed you, or you've aggroed something, it's half the time, and that's what you don't want. I am out of mitigation, but there's few enough enemies that it's probably fine. Usually around three enemies or less, you can start conserving mitigation. This is a single enemy, so as long as I have him aggroed on me, the Conjurer should be able to keep up. Facing the enemy away from the party is important because this way when they throw out AoEs like that, they're not hitting the party. So just to demonstrate a little bit what I was explaining earlier, if you start sprinting before anything is aggroed to you, see how I have twice the time. And then we'll quickly talk about how to handle bosses and boss tanking and boss mitigation. So first things first, you're gonna pull it. As soon as you pull it, run through it and immediately turn it around. Just like I mentioned earlier with the bear, you want the boss to be faced away from the party so that if you're using any big attacks, they come this way. Notice that I'm not really using mitigations here. I will use one now because this is going to be a raid wide, and this will protect my entire party from damage, which will help the healer. That attack is reprisal and every tank has it. Otherwise, I'm not using a ton of single target mitigation for myself because bosses don't do enough damage that the healer can't keep up. Typically. There are cases where you would need to do that, but for now, assume you don't need to. Not in dungeons. There is an exception to this rule, which I'm assuming will come up if this monster has one. So it didn't use one, so we'll just talk about it real fast. The time in question where you will be using mitigation in a dungeon boss fight is when what is called a tank buster indicator appears on your character. And it looks like this. If a tank buster appears on you, you will use a mitigation. If you have a baby mitigation, you will probably pop your baby mitigation. If you don't have a baby mitigation, you can probably just pop Rampart. It doesn't really matter. You just need a mitigation to make sure that that big damage is softened. It is called a tank buster because it will literally bust a tank. If that indicator appears on any other party member that is not a tank, they're probably just dead. It is meant specifically for you to be holding and getting the tar beaten out of you. So our fourth symptom of Tanxiety, I'm not gonna assume that by me explaining it to you, it's going to be a cured symptom. That is not really how learning how to play a game or learning how to play a role works. You have to now take the knowledge that I've shared with you and apply it. It was a lot of knowledge, so I don't recommend that you apply all of the knowledge at once. I recommend that you layer it in one piece at a time, especially when it comes to mitigation. And fortunately, by design, you'll only be able to do a little bit of mitigation at a time because that's how the game works. You don't have it all at once. So just take your time and go through it. You saw in the duty support run that, and something that I wanted to mention, that the Conjurer could not save me when I wall-to-wall pulled. A player will be able to do that because they will have a Jobstone and more abilities. But also, and this is a really big deal that I didn't think about in the moment, but that I about afterwards, if you die in duty support, you just reset. You go back to the beginning or back to whatever the previous checkpoint is. If you're playing with other players, the healer will attempt to resurrect or res you. And how you react in that situation, you will never ever learn from playing duty support because they don't do that. You just start over. But in a panic situation where for whatever reason you've died and the healer resurrects you, you need to be able to get up and pick up all the enmity before the rest of your homies die. But you're never going to get to learn or practice that if you're running duty support all the time. So it is another reason not to use duty support as a long-term crutch. It is okay if you need to get a little comfortable, but I implore you not to stick with it if your intention is to be able to play with the bigger crowd. If you're running this as an RPG, as a single player RPG, and you never want to play with other people, different story. I personally think that there is a lot more excitement to running the game with other players. Whether you're antisocial or not, it's just a different dynamic. The game is more interesting and more fun to me. But I'm not going to yuck your yum if you are hardcore gung-ho on running duty support and doing everything single player. That's totally fine. This is the part where I start telling you guys about all the ways you can access me, and you hard dip the video. If you wouldn't mind sticking around till the end, it would help me, but if you must go, I get it. I mentioned earlier, if you want to join the AzureRogues, we have a Discord, links in the description. The free company is on Crystal Coeurl and Dynamis Rafflesia. So if you're interested in making a move over there, it is free to transfer to Rafflesia right now. If you're a free trial player and just looking for people to connect with, the Discord is a perfect place for that. And if you want to hang out with me, watch me, and chat with me on Twitch, I'm there 2 nights a week. You can find my link also in the description. This video was inspired by a couple of specific comments that I saw in another video, so I do implore you to share your comments if you have any, if I missed anything, if you have any of your own tips, or if you have any other concerns, because you never know, it might inspire the next video, much like this one did. With that, as always, I appreciate you. If you had a good time, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.